this place real? That depends. If real is what you can feel, smell, taste, and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. Pikachu, I have in my hand 2 pills. You take the blue pill, and the story ends now. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the Diglett hole goes. But be warned, dive too deep, and you may never return.
Passionate about comics, passionate about Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! People are passionate about, I guess people are trying to get passionate about Dragon Ball Z cards, but people were getting passionate about the Marvel cards, Marvel PMGs. I don't know, like crypto, whatever. It's like it just can't keep going up. And also I think it's not like when you get into the market, I think you need to be looking at the entirety. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, like once you have that huge run up, like most of the profit has already been taken. And also one more thing, I think there are people who are still trying to look and find the next big thing, but they're really just trying to search for crumbs, and you're just getting into riskier and riskier stuff, and you're just gonna be holding in the bag. And I think people are gonna say, oh, when Fanatics come in, or in the next 2 years or 3 years, things are just gonna miraculously change. But history shows it doesn't really work that way. Maybe there's an uptick for certain things, but it's not gonna be. I think it's just like the time that you put in versus the money that you get out. Most people are going to find something else to do. I think there's probably still be opportunities, but for most people, I think it's not going to make sense. I threw out a lot.
You're talking about Sports Card Invest. I think that 20-year-old or something like that.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, there's a huge conflict of interest with what that dude does, because I think he has a service where I think he sells picks or just says that, hey, I think it's going to go up. And then on his YouTube, he's talking about, hey, I think these cards can go up, or it's a great investment, like you said. So I think there's a lot of conflict of interest out there, specifically with his channel. And there used to be a bunch of others that used to run these type of newsletters. Ziggy always talks about I think one of the dudes at Card Ladder used to run it, but I think it's now stopped, and a few other people that used to run it. So, stuff like that, I think that needs to be changed, in my opinion. I think that could even artificially pump up some of these card prices, and it probably did during the pandemic, in my opinion. But
one thing that kind of like got me annoyed, I want to say it was last year, when people were going crazy about UFC cards, because I think it was like Gary Vee was part of the media to kind of represent some of the fighters, to get their name out there. And I know Stipe Miocic, he was talking about them and stuff like that. And then I think people just thought Gary Vee's talking about cards, and now he's like representing these UFC fighters and stuff. And I remember when Sports Card Investor, he kind of mentioned in some of his videos, just sparsely, he kind of showed some stuff. So you kind of like already knew, okay, yeah, he's picking up like UFC cards. And then Sports Card Investor announced, he's buying UFC cards, and he thinks he's going to be like what happened to basketball, where you could literally buy, I don't know, a card for $1,000. It turns to tens of thousands of dollars, 50, 40, 60, 80, $100,000, something crazy like that. And people lost their mind and just started buying Conor McGregor cards, and just UFC cards in general. And Sports Card Invest was like, he showed pictures of like Anderson Silva. He had a bunch of them, and it's not that many UFC cards out there. especially pre 2019, really. There has been sets that kind of increased, but especially like from 2019 to about 2012, there's not that many sets out there, or 13 is not that many sets. And he had Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, and John Jones auto cards, and he had like a bunch of them. And he was like, "Oh, I just got all these through the mail from the mail today or whatever, and I'm buying everything I'm telling you to buy. I'm buying as well or whatever." And I'm like, and I look on eBay and I'm like, there's like, it's like they buy everything up and they leave one card left or like one hobby box left. They buy up all the hobby boxes and they have one left, and it's like at this ridiculous price or whatever. And you look like looking for one impulsive person to like bid it up or whatever, and then they're gonna like funnel it back into the market and sell it to everybody. I was just like, this is not, I just didn't feel like it was the most ethical thing.
In 2020, I remember buying a Khabib serial numbered card. And this is a blue refractor 2013 card. Mm-hmm. And I bought it from a dude in Canada for $25 shipped. Then, yeah, it was ridiculous because 8 months later, you could pay $700 for the same card I bought for $25. Now, the crazy part is on Golden, those cards could sell for a ridiculous amount of value, much more than, you know, the all-in cost of grading, maybe $125 to $130. We're talking about thousands of dollars, at least in my opinion. And the crazier part was, I remember Gary Vee saying that, hey, these UFC card, or not UFC, Conor McGregor should be on the Mount Rushmore of all athletes. And I thought, wait a second, what? I mean, like Conor McGregor got knocked out by Poirier, you know, just when Poirier just kicked him. I don't know if you saw that fight.
Yeah, I saw it.
You saw it. And I'm thinking, what? I mean, what kind of hype was behind it? And still, McGregor cards sell for decent prices. He's good at marketing. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know, just throwing ridiculous amount of money when you could have bought in June 2020 for dirt cheap. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. I'm actually learning this about neuroscience. It seems like people are willing to take bigger risks if they expect higher gains. If they think, and I think the mindset was what happened to basketball and how prices went crazy. I know on Instagram I posted some crazy prices from Luka PSA 10 silver cards. At one point they went to $8,000, something like that. But I'm pretty sure there were some that actually sold for $12,000 and $14,000 for Luka Prism PSA 10 rookies. Panini Prism. So I think people are thinking, you know, you're gonna buy a $500 card and then that can happen. And then they go around there, you can sell it. And it's like, I think a lot of people felt maybe they missed out on basketball, but they can get around it and catch up with UFC in a sense. And I think people are just looking at how much money they think they were going to get or expecting to get. And they weren't thinking about the risks. And it's weird because you can tell people aren't thinking because, you know, people talk about don't buy other positions for football because you can get hurt. You play running back, you run into someone. But in MMA, like you have a person who's very skilled, very dangerous, and they're trying to hurt you. They're trying to punch, kick you in the head, you know, put you in submissions, you know, things such as that. And then people were also prospecting too, which is really crazy. I mean, maybe it'll pay off, but it's one of those things where I think what Conor McGregor is, he's the most popular person in the sport, and I think his big accomplishment is becoming the first 2-division champion. And he's just so charismatic. He gets a lot of casual fans in to stuff. But the issue with him is I don't even think he's going to be top 10 all time in UFC. What he's trying to do right now is he's trying to come back and win a third title in a different division and be the first ever person to win titles in 3 different weight classes. 2 is hard enough, but 3 is even harder, especially I don't know which weight class he wants to do either, because he's putting on a bunch of weight. He's not fighting at 145 ever again. And then 155, I don't see him doing that. I don't see how he's gonna be able to do that. So 170, the top guys is like Kamaru Usman, and Leon Edwards knocked out Kamaru Usman. That's the other thing. Like, a guy can be so dominant and be winning the whole fight, and then they can get knocked out just like that. And it's a complete upset. And we've seen major upsets in UFC this year. Amanda Nunes, who's like the greatest woman fighter ever, she lost. She had a second fight and won her belt back. But you see that with Kamaru Usman lost. A lot of people have been counting out Charles Oliveira all year. I believe he fought Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje in the same year and won. People have been sleeping on him. I think there's still some people who are sleeping on him against Islam Makhachev. I think most people assume that he's going to be Khabib 2.0. But you don't necessarily know. I feel like Islam is going to win. I'm going to make a video for tomorrow about that. But, it's one of those things where I do feel like a lot of people who are probably buying UFC cards as well are basketball like investors or collectors and stuff like that, and they're just trying to hold it to make a bunch of money. I see a lot of potential for UFC, but I still think they have a long way to go as far as popularity. And maybe 20 or 30 years from now, what happened with basketball cards and the rise in popularity of people wanting basketball cards from the youth may happen with UFC. But I don't think it, because a lot of stuff just doesn't make sense. Like Francis Ngannou cards he's like the world heavyweight champion. He defended his title, and his cards have really gone down. Someone bought, I don't know if it was a silver or a base. It was a couple times it's happened for like $10,000 for a silver card. And I think it was when he won the title. And then I'm pretty sure his gold out of 50, serial number out of 50, sells for about $300 or $400 now. So, and I think there's 10 or 12 of those, and there's maybe 17 silvers or 20 some silvers graded PSA 10. But like, it's just like a major decline. I'm pretty sure you can get a 25 if it showed up for auction for $500. I'm pretty sure. And people really don't want his museum cards like that, which is other 2017 cards. And technically, unlike basketball, like for UFC, the most exciting guys are typically like the bigger guys in a sense. There's certain weight divisions. In the past, it was like lightweight, and then also heavyweights, because it's like no one's gonna beat them. Like Conor McGregor is gonna fight Francis Ngannou, who's gonna get killed. So that's weird, because I feel like they treat some of the heavyweights as far as the price is almost like centers in the NBA almost, which doesn't make any sense. But the other thing is, I think for Conor McGregor, I feel like buying his cards would be, maybe I get proven wrong, but I feel like as far as him making headways in MMA, especially UFC, and winning again and coming back and stuff, I don't think it's happening. He broke his leg. There isn't a precedent. Like, he's made so much money, and I know this is kind of like the tongue-in-cheek narrative, I guess, but his goal is to make as much money as possible, and that's why there's this rumor of him gonna fight Floyd Mayweather again for boxing. He's probably gonna lose. It's probably gonna be an exhibition too. Boxers are kind of getting overpaid anyway, so he's probably going that route because he wants to be a billionaire by a certain point, by a certain age, and I think that's what he's chasing. Like, if he's gonna fight 170, Leon Edwards is gonna do the same thing, because he can't wrestle against the top guys. So people know he trash talks and he has a good left hand. He's not really going to catch other people, and he's been out of the octagon for a very long time. He's not having a lot. He has going to have a lot of ring rust and things such as that. And people are going to have to try to get him up again in a tune-up fight. They got to find that. He probably needs to have 2 tune-up fights before he does anything else, so they can like hype him up again. Because if he fights Leon Edwards, I guess he has a chance. But if he fights Kamaru Usman, Usman, I don't think he has really a chance because he's just going to wrestle him down, take him down, and beat him up. Same, Kobe Covington is going to do the same thing, and Khamzat is going to probably end him in like 10 seconds. So, 170 doesn't make sense. And then I'll be honest with you, 185 doesn't make any sense either. 185, obviously, is Israel Adesanya. I mean, one of the best kickboxers in the world. And also Alex Pereira, they're fighting next month, I think. I mean, these are 2 top kickboxers, and same thing. Like, he's not going to be able to stand up against those guys. And then also they're longer too, so length has a big part of it. And then also going against Khamzat Chimaev, who could go 185. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't. And then Robert Whitaker, he's gonna beat him either. So it's like. I just don't see it. I just don't. And he's not going to go all the way to 205. He's just too small for that. So that's one of the issues. A lot of people want to fight Conor McGregor, especially big names, because you get that payday. And just Conor McGregor grabs a lot of casual fans. So also the other thing is he's taking the UFC. I'm pretty sure UFC is probably like allowing him to take steroids or whatever. Maybe it's part of his recovery because it's not being tested by USADA. So and that's the other thing about MMA as well. Most of those dudes are on something. It's kind of if you get caught or not.
I think John Jones did a lot of steroids from what I heard. But
yes, I'm pretty sure because USADA came to go test him one time. And he hid under the ring, so they wouldn't test him or whatever. So that's suspicious enough if you go and hide when somebody's trying to test you. And then he probably did. Yeah, his excuse was one of his nights of partying, doing cocaine or whatever. He took one of those like gas station pills or whatever, like erection pills or whatever, and apparently that had steroids in it, and that was his excuse. So, but also I haven't seen the video, but there's a video about Daniel Cormier that some of his hormone levels were abnormal. Like a lot of these guys, their hormone levels seem to be abnormal for whatever reason. I'm pretty sure most people are taking something. It's almost like when people were talking about Lance Armstrong and his races, but when they tested like the top 18 finishers, they were all doing something. It's probably like that. And I'm pretty sure it's like that with probably most sports, to be honest with you.
The hanky panky. I see some of the comments. Yes, so it's the hanky panky with all this alleged steroid use and all of that stuff. But you're talking about steroids and people using substances in sports. Now, what about sports cards in general, like the hanky panky? We could go on for a long time.
That's true.
I got to go in about 10 minutes. But I know you're on Sports Card Radio